I never thought I would be the type of person to plot revenge. Growing up in Portland with its laid-back vibe and progressive atmosphere, I always considered myself pretty chill. My name is Olivia Bennett, and at 22 years old, I was supposed to be focused on finishing college, hanging out at local coffee shops, and planning weekend hikes in the Columbia River Gorge. Instead, I found myself creating fake social media accounts and meticulously documenting the whereabouts of my cheating ex-boyfriend. Funny how life works out sometimes. I met Jason during my sophomore year when we both worked at a popular downtown restaurant. He was charming, quick-witted, and had this infectious laugh that made everyone around him smile. When he got accepted to a university across the country, we decided to try long distance. We could make it work with video calls, occasional visits, and lots of texting. At least that was the plan. The Jason I fell in love with in Portland started to fade away once he moved. The sweet good morning texts became sporadic. Our video calls often ended with him getting irritated over small things. He would make comments about my appearance that chipped away at my confidence. If I brought up concerns about our relationship, he would twist my words until I found myself apologizing for things I never did wrong. I started walking on eggshells, careful not to trigger his mood swings. One minute he would tell me how much he missed me, the next he would ignore me for days, claiming he was just busy with school. It was exhausting, but I kept making excuses for him. The stress of school must be getting to him. The distance was hard on both of us. Things would go back to normal once he came home for break. Deep down, I knew something was off, but I ignored the warning signs. Then one night, while scrolling through social media, I noticed a comment from a girl named Amber under one of his photos. Her profile picture showed her with her arm around Jason at what looked like a campus party. My stomach dropped. I had never heard him mention an Amber before. I started digging and found more pictures of them together, dating back several months. When I confronted him, he dismissed it as nothing. She was just a study partner, I was being paranoid. Why was I stalking his social media like a crazy girlfriend? But the evidence kept piling up. Late-night calls that he would take in another room. Weekend plans that suddenly changed. And finally, the smoking gun. A mutual friend from his university reached out to tell me she had seen Jason kissing Amber at a bar near campus. She felt I deserved to know. When I confronted him again with this information, he finally admitted to cheating but somehow managed to make it seem like it was my fault. If I had been more attentive, less needy, more understanding of the pressure he was under, maybe he wouldn't have strayed. That was the moment something inside me snapped. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I simply told him I needed time to think and hung up. But what I really needed was a plan. I was done being manipulated and gaslit. I wanted him to feel the same uncertainty and anxiety he had put me through for months, so I got to work. Every day after my classes at Portland Community College, I would come home to my small apartment and begin my research. I tracked his movements through social media, noting which bars he frequented, which parties he attended, who he was hanging out with. I kept a detailed log of everything in a notebook that I hid under my mattress. I studied his new social circle, memorizing names and connections. The girl he cheated with, Amber, had a roommate named Taylor who dated a guy in the Delta Sigma Phi fraternity. Jason had started hanging out with this fraternity despite always claiming to hate frat culture when we were together in Portland. I knew this information would come in handy. After 3 months of gathering intelligence, I was ready to execute my plan. I created a fake Instagram account for a fictional frat brother named Brad Johnson. I carefully constructed his online persona, uploading stock photos of a generic-looking college guy doing typical college things. I followed accounts related to the university and fraternity to make it look legitimate. I even created a few posts with captions that sounded like they were written by an obnoxious frat boy. Then I set my trap. One evening, when I knew Jason would be at his apartment, I texted myself from this fake account pretending to be Brad. The message was simple. Hey, you don't know me, but I go to school with your boyfriend Jason. I think you should know he's been cheating on you with multiple girls on campus. I have proof if you want to see it. I immediately took screenshots of this conversation and sent them to Jason with a message saying, "Who is this person? Why are they saying these things about you?" His response was immediate and panicked. He called me right away, his voice shaking. He told me to block the account, to not respond, that it was probably just some jealous guy trying to cause problems. I played the role of confused and hurt girlfriend perfectly. I asked him why someone would make up such specific accusations. I told him I was scared and confused. He swore up and down that it was all lies, that he loved me and would never cheat again. Notice how he slipped up with the word again, admitting there had been more than just Amber. The next day, I sent myself a detailed message from the fake account, listing specific information that only someone who was closely watching Jason would know. I mentioned how he went to the Rusty Nail Bar every Thursday night with his roommate Tyler. I named 3 girls he had been seen flirting with, including a blonde named Jessica who worked at the campus bookstore. I described his habit of turning off his location settings when he went to certain apartments near campus. I even mentioned seeing him buy flowers at the campus florist, but they clearly weren't being sent to me in Portland. I made sure to include just enough accurate information mixed with a few fabricated details that seemed plausible. Then I forwarded all of this to Jason with a message saying, "What is going on? How does this person know so much about you? I'm really scared, Jason." The effect was immediate and devastating. Jason completely lost it. He called me sobbing, a complete mess. He admitted to cheating with not just Amber, but several other girls. He confessed to lying about where he was on multiple occasions. He swore he would change, that he loved me more than anything, that he would transfer back to a school in Portland just to be with me. But then his fear about the mysterious Brad took over. He became convinced he was being stalked. He started checking over his shoulder everywhere he went. He stopped going to his usual hangouts. He called me constantly, asking if I had received any more messages from Brad. I told him I had blocked the account but was still upset and processing everything. I needed space to think. Over the next few weeks, Jason's paranoia grew. He went to campus security to report being stalked. He changed his phone number. He even moved to a different apartment, convinced that someone was watching his every move. All this time, I maintained my wounded but concerned girlfriend act while secretly enjoying the chaos I had created. After letting him stew in his paranoia for about a month, I finally told him I couldn't continue our relationship. I said his cheating had broken my trust beyond repair, and while I forgave him, I couldn't be with him anymore. He begged and pleaded, promising to be a better man, swearing he had learned his lesson. But I stood firm. I told him I hoped he would find peace and that whoever was watching him would eventually leave him alone. That was 3 years ago. I've since graduated, started a promising career in graphic design, and moved on with my life in Portland. I sometimes get texts from Jason, especially late at night or on anniversaries of significant dates in our relationship. Long, emotional messages about how losing me was the biggest mistake of his life, how he still thinks about me every day, how he's a changed man now. I rarely respond. Last year, he mentioned in one of his texts that he still occasionally feels like he's being watched, though the messages from the mysterious Brad stopped long ago. He said the whole experience changed him, made him realize how his actions could have consequences he never imagined. Little does he know that his stalker was never a frat boy named Brad. It was just me, Olivia from Portland, the girl he thought he could manipulate and discard. Sometimes I feel a twinge of guilt about the psychological torment I put him through. But then I remember all the nights I cried myself to sleep because of his cruel words. I remember how small and worthless he made me feel. I remember the gaslighting and the lies. And that guilt quickly fades away. I never told anyone about what I did, not even my closest friends. It's my secret to keep. And sometimes, on rainy Portland nights when I'm curled up with a book and a cup of tea in my cozy apartment, I smile to myself knowing that somewhere out there, Jason still looks over his shoulder, wondering if Brad is watching. The best revenge isn't served screaming and shouting. It's served with careful planning, perfect execution, and an ending where your target never even knows it was you all.